Thank you for welcoming me onto your screens or onto your headphones, depending on how you're watching this. I'm Eddie, and this is The Rollback. Folks, I'm going to talk to you today about Killers of the Flower Moon, aka fuck colonization.
Got nothing but regret.
So, this movie, maybe more than any other in recent memory, feels like an odyssey. This movie feels like everything that Dune wishes it could be. We can start with this. It's Martin Scorsese directing another crime thriller, and I will argue with anyone that this fits that narrative. It fits the narrative of Casino and Goodfellas, where when you would think that the bad guys get captured, you think, oh, that's the end of the film. No, that's just the beginning of the third act. To his credit, Martin Scorsese directed this film masterfully. Everything looked beautiful. Everything looked like it had color and had a reason to be there. There's not much fat on this film. There's no scene that I can think of that could have been cut and the movie would have made more sense, if that makes sense. That said, though, this feels like one of those occasions where this movie should have been more about Molly Burkhart or Lily Gladstone's character. Lily Gladstone, also shout out to her, amazing, commanding every scene that she's in, and that's not saying nothing, especially when she's in the room with Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro at times. Yet still somehow you gravitate towards her. You get the sense that this woman didn't want to be the matriarch of her family, but it's kind of forced upon her because of the multiple accidental deaths of her family members, from her sisters to her mother. Obviously, it becomes very apparent very quickly that these were not, accidental killings. They were assassinations, trying to kill or subjugate the Osage people into giving up their land, or I guess by marriage, their land would fall into other people's laps. Robert De Niro plays this perfect grandpa monster. This guy who doesn't believe he's the bad guy, he's just doing what's right. He won't take no for an answer. He won't take it when you look him in the eyes and say, you're a liar. No, I'm not. If you had photo evidence, he'd say it's fake. If he had video evidence, he'd say it was doctored. That said, this guy, Hale, or they call him King, Uncle Hale or King, he's a monster. And he's the worst kind of monster because he's not the monster that you see coming. He's the monster that stands next to you and then slowly stabs you in the back and says, it's okay, I didn't mean to do this. He's a bastard for no other reason other than the plot that he orchestrates to kill the Osage people. At one point, he even looks at someone, a Native American, and says, that guy's worth 25 grand to me, I gotta keep him alive for a couple more months. Like, no regard for human life. But then again, to these people, the Native Americans weren't humans. Genuinely, I'm not sure who's worse, William Hale or Ernest Burkhart, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. He plays this horrible, spineless coward who just folds at whatever his uncle tells him. He hides behind his family, his wife's sickness. Bear in mind, the son of a bitch is poisoning her. They say, oh, she has the diabetes, so give her this insulin and she'll be fine. They're slowly poisoning her, keeping her alive long enough until it's very apparent, oh, hey, if she were to die, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, right? Especially because it's diabetes. It's not until this woman forces herself to go up north to Washington, ask President Coolidge himself for help, that he sends the Federal Bureau of Investigation, now known as the FBI, to investigate the situation, and then it's then that they find out, oh hey, they're targeting Native Americans, they're targeting their oil and their land, they're murdering them. Not just one man, but an entire conspiracy plot, all hinging on Ernest Burkhart, who backs down for just the briefest of moments, until he finds out that his oldest child died of whooping cough. Somehow that gives him the courage to stand up to his uncle. That said though, mate, it's a little too fucking late for that. Again, you were poisoning your fucking wife. This movie feels like an epic, and I mean that in sense of story, not necessarily scope. This movie feels like an odyssey to go on. To his credit, this movie doesn't feel like it drags on too much, but on the other side of the coin, it's not an easy watch. I liked it, but I remember seeing people in my theater on their phones halfway through the film because they couldn't pay attention, because God forbid you try to pay attention to a 3.5 hour film. But then again, pretty sure there's a made-for-TV version of this film that's shorter, but I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. This movie feels like one of betrayal, hatred, and racism. A movie that feels like an odyssey, if nothing else. Some people may struggle to get through it. I personally enjoyed it. So I gotta say this just once. Thank you, Martin Scorsese. you superhero hating son of a bitch. You made a good movie. That said, what did you think of Flowers of the Killer Moon? Go ahead and comment down below. We greatly appreciate it. I will catch y'all later. We'll see everyone.